Hey, today on Gun Talk Nation, we're talking with Bret Maffett from Franchi. And I should just get it out of the way right now because it's an Italian name. It's spelled Franchi. So when you're looking up Franchi, you can find that. They make rifles, they make shotguns, and I didn't get to ask them about it, but they actually make a very cool youth shotgun that has a lot of adjustments so it can grow with the youth as they grow. So that's a cool one. But we're also going to talk about the difference between sporting clays shotguns and field guns and some other fun stories, how to switch from being a right-handed shooter to a left-handed shooter if you're left-eye dominant, but you've shot right-handed all your life. How do you do that, and is it worth it? All that right now with Franchi. This Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by EOTECH Optics. All right, welcome into Gun Talk Nation. Today on Gun Talk Nation, we're going to talk about shooting some targets. We're going to talk about perhaps some hunting stuff. Sometimes we bleed into the hunting world, even though KJ usually talks all that stuff on Gun Talk Hunt. But Franchi, okay, so Franchi, we're welcoming in Bret Maffett. Welcome in, man. Franchi brand. I mean, you guys do a bunch of different things. How do you, when someone says, who's Franchi, if they know other gun brands, they don't know you guys, how do you explain it?
So it's a great question, Ryan. Largely because we are 154 years old, almost 155 years old. And it's, we're really this century and a half old, almost best kept secret in a way. We like to look at ourselves more as a, probably a lifestyle brand than a lot of the other shotgun firearm brands out there. Mm-hmm. What we have found is our consumer base tends to be those that they're really drawn to the social aspect of shooting, hunting, right? Okay. It's the guys and ladies who they love cooking eggs and bacon in a duck blind or a goose pit or something, right? Like they love going to the sporting clays range, just messing around with their friends. It's the people whose incredibly fond childhood memories were built around hunts with their, grandfather, their cousins, maybe an aunt and uncle or something. It's the people who the experience means just as much to them as the actual pursuit and, the harvested return. And you see that in the way the brand is represented, and frankly, in the way that in today's social media centric outdoor sporting world, the way people represent themselves when it comes to using our products. But beyond that, the Franchi brand holistically is really based around achieving best in class fit and feel. Balance, comfort. Our consumer demands incredibly reliable shotguns with ease of maintenance and ease of use. They really prefer a very smooth, reliable action, and again, or superior ergonomics, which is what we have built the brand around on both our shotgun and our rifle platforms.
I mean, we've got one of your sporting guns here, and I've always thought of Franchi as, and I'm probably going to echo some of the things that you just said, is a brand that has great style. And it's probably like more when you think about the fit and function and form of function and like the look of it, but also the reliability of it. It seems like it should cost more than it does. Maybe. It's like this, it outkicks its coverage.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
We have, it's the delicate balance of brand marketing, right? Like we have a target consumer, and that target consumer has a price point in which they operate. And so that's what we try to maintain. And I'm ecstatic when people react that way, because I would agree with you. I mean, it's a fantastic firearm, both that sporting gun you have in front of you. I mean, it's a fantastic value for the consumer, right, from a price quality equation standpoint. And I would argue all of our brands guns are like that. And we really do strive to control costs so we can provide a reliable firearm as a way of achieving those experiences our consumer, is really after, in the best way possible and in an achievable economic way for them.
Well, and you said something that was interesting is, our customers are folks who enjoy the social aspect of this.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly with shotguns, if you're talking about waterfowl, you're talking about upland hunting, or you're talking about just going sporting clays, shooting clays, whatever. All of those are super social. It's kind of, to me, one of the best ways to get someone into shooting or hunting, because look, I love whitetail hunting, but if you're a 10-year-old sitting, from the East, sitting in a stand, being quiet, being still, being cold for 4 hours, if you're getting into it, you're like, I like this, I want to like it, but man, this is tough. It's like, take a kid fishing. He doesn't want to fish, he wants to catch fish.
Yeah. So, well, dude, I'm a 38-year-old and I still feel that way sometimes in a tree stand.
Yeah.
I was on a hunt with my old freshman year college roommate 2 weeks ago out in Western Virginia. We had a lease on a farm for the week, and there were some rainy, miserable mornings. And we, for whatever reason, Western Virginia had an absolutely phenomenal acorn crop this year, and so they weren't coming out of the woods, and we were trying everything we could. And maybe we tried a little too hard at times. I don't know. But, there's some mornings there, and it's like, oh, the hell with this. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But, that it comes with the territory. And at the end of the day, and even though I'm in a solitary tree stand, right? Like, I'm texting back and forth with my buddy, fairly regularly throughout the morning and the evening sits, and we're joking around. And, it's still a lot of fun. And, we came away from it with very much refreshed soul. Not to sound too much like a hippie, but that's part of what it's about as well, at least for my end. But yeah, no, you're right. The social experience that you can provide to somebody when you're walking around in an upland field or joking around in a blind somewhere or I don't know, just at a range, teaching somebody that it's really not that hard to shoot out to 200 yards with a rifle. Like, that's what really, it makes people light up with excitement when they start to get into the firearms shooting world. And that's what you absolutely need. And one of the worst things that you can provide to somebody in that, that newbie, from that newbie standpoint, is, I would argue, a firearm that is going to give them problems, because that's incredibly frustrating as well. Right. And so not only are you potentially not shooting anything, well, if your gun's not working, then do you really want to come back and do it again?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you don't want the gun to be part of the challenge that if you're learning how to do this, or you're trying to make a shot that's a hard shot on a deer or a duck or a clay or whatever, the gun should make it maybe perhaps a little bit easier, help you look a little bit better. I mean, you guys, I'm just looking at this sporting gun. You've got ported barrel, so it's going to help reduce muzzle flip, faster follow-up shots. You have an external choke, easy to swap out the chokes, so you can kind of custom tune that. What else on this gun is going to help somebody be more successful?
Sure. Well, we have an extended barrel on that one. So that, I believe, in front of you is a 12 gauge. So that should have a 30-inch barrel on it. Now I'm kind of an odd duck, so to speak, when it comes to sporting clays. I use the same gun that I would out in the field when hunting, just because my primary endeavor is typically the hunting aspect of shooting sports. And so I want to be as familiar and comfortable as possible with my gun as I possibly can be. But that, people who do sporting plays regularly, competitively, they like having a little bit heavier balance to the front end of the gun. And so that's
they'll shoot 30-inch barrels and heck, even longer.
A lot of people shoot 32-inch barrels, which we don't offer at this time, but the 30-inch barrel is a really nice little upgrade for people. It's this is going to sound silly because it doesn't provide any benefit, but it's a very nice looking gun.
Oh yeah.
For the amount of money you're going to spend on it. And let's be honest, in today's world of tricking out guns and, race car looking, one-offs and whatnot coming from all these aftermarket, parts of the industry, which I dig, for the record. That's a gun that somebody who, is walking out the sporting clays course for the first couple times, they're not going to feel inadequate, if you will, right? Like, it's something they can kind of show off and talk about with their friends. And I think psychologically that helps in a weird way. I'm probably going to get some negative comments for that, maybe. I don't know.
No, but you want to look the part, right?
Yeah, you do.
The part.
But as with all of our affinities, the ergonomics on that gun are absolutely phenomenal, right? It's an incredibly, it's a very slim forend. It's very comfortable forend. The lines on that really pull your hand in to where it needs to be when you're shooting. That gun itself has, adjustable drop and cast on the stock itself, so you can adjust that to the individual shooter, right? And that is a often not talked about feature on these guns, or it's not talked about enough, frankly, because what you can do as a shooter is get a customized fit and feel to the firearm right out of the box.
Well, essentially, an adjustable stock on a shotgun, the way I would kind of put it is, a shotgun without that is like having a rifle with a scope that you can't sight in. Like, what's the point of this? Like,
right.
Your eye is the rear sight of the shotgun.
It is.
It has to line up correctly. And if you shoot wrong-handed like me, because you're left eye dominant, you have to be able to make those accommodations.
I can
you talked about.
I'm heavily left eye dominant.
Okay.
So first thing for me when I'm shooting in affinity is I swap out that shim and just flip it around so it's canted over to the left for somebody like me and apparently you.
It makes all the difference.
You really can, and that wasn't something I really learned about. Frankly, I didn't realize I was so heavily left eye dominant until I was in my early 20s, and so I've been shooting rifles and shotguns right-handed my whole life, closing the eye and not thrilled. And so my dad looked at me like I had 17 heads when I started just hunting one day left-handed with him, for pheasant. He said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I can't do this anymore." I'm like, "It's just wrong." And he's like, "Well, explain to me." Because my dad loves being out in the field, but he's never been one. He never knew certain details, and God bless him for introducing me to these sports the way he did, because I've been blessed enough to make a career out of it, right? But yeah, he looks at me, he's like, "What are you doing? Explain this to me." Like, what? And then he had this realization. He's like, "Huh, well, that makes sense because I don't close my eyes, but I shoot right-handed, but I'm left-handed." And so he had been doing what I was switching to do his entire life and just never realized it.
Yeah, he was cross-dominant.
Right.
Now you switched, and so many people I hear, when they're taught to shoot, they're taught to shoot from the right shoulder. They're taught to shoot right-handed on on long guns, even if they're left eye dominant, just because that's what dad or grandpa or uncle knew how to do.
It seems to be normal, right?
And then people realize that they're left eye dominant, but they still don't switch. What made you switch, and like, what did you do to get comfortable with it? Because so many people say it just feels weird.
I switched because I was just irritated, right? I knew I wasn't supposed to shut my eye. Mm-hmm. But I always did. And I was a good shot right-handed. It's just, I got to a point where I was like, the hell with this. This is just annoying the hell out of me, right? And so I just decided one day, and it did feel awkward, but I just kind of sort of forced my way through. And then after the first few times, it really wasn't that bad. Now I'm fortunate that I do a lot of DIY. I do a lot of like kind of fine woodworking and whatnot. And so I've been forced, just based on projects I've done my whole life, to have to use both hands fairly equally. So I probably was a step ahead of a lot of people just because of that history. But that's not to say it didn't feel awkward, because I can assure you it did. But you kind of just need to press ahead with it and decide that it's something you want to do for yourself to become a better shooter, if you firmly believe that that's going to be the case. And I did, and it paid off.
Yeah.
And now I will say it took me longer to switch shooting pistols left-handed. I didn't do that for another 5 or 6 years, but I ultimately forced myself to do that, and that felt more awkward to me.
Are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Okay. See, I'm right-handed, but I shoot pistols right-handed. I just kind of turn my head a little bit.
Well, and that's what I did for, 5, 6 years following my long gun switch. And then I just, again, just kind of got fed up with it because I didn't like having to force it so far over.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started going on the range with a buddy of mine who was a state trooper in Pennsylvania, and he just started running me through drills, forcing me to shoot left-handed, and I just kind of kept up with it, and then it became natural. Now, I will say the nice thing, here's the rainbow at the end of this road, right? Or the pot of gold, so to speak. Once you make the switch and force yourself to make the switch, you're still going to be naturally able to shoot right-handed.
Yeah.
Right. So it almost becomes this blessing in disguise, because if you're in a situation, you go back to the tree stand, right? So I'm in these tree stands, and my buddy had set up to his configuration, right? Because he shoots right-handed.
Right. Happens
And
to me
I
all the
wasn't really
time.
thinking about it at the time when he was setting him up. But when we were switching around different stands, then I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to shoot right-handed on half of these shots.
Yeah.
So I was sort of pulling up right in some of these lulls just to make sure I wasn't gonna be thrown off by it, and it felt natural again. So you do, once you force yourself to make the switch, it becomes, just an added benefit for shooting in the field in really any given situation, which is a nice thing.
Yeah. Did you notice an improvement in shooting once you switched over and started getting more comfortable with it? I mean, especially, I guess I'm thinking about the shotgun side of things.
Yeah, I'm incredibly left-eye dominant, like very heavily. I don't really know why, it just is what it is. So for me, yeah, like that spatial awareness and depth perception and whatnot, it definitely, it helped a lot being able to have both eyes open. Now it may be such that had I just, patched or what's the word? Gotten some, kind of spray to force my left eye shut when shooting right-handed, like to put on the lens or something. Maybe it would have been fine that way too. But for me, just once I reached that comfort level in terms of handling the gun left-handed, the visual aspect of it was easy, right? And that's what I wanted to achieve. So it proved to be very beneficial, just I think across the board.
Yeah, that was it's what your eyes naturally want to do. Bret, after this quick break, I want to talk about the difference between sporting shotguns, and field guns, because you guys make both of them. New from Ruger, the Security 380. So it is a 380 ACP, and it's full-featured, ideally sized, modestly priced. Why is it in 380? Well, it helps it be more lightweight and compact. It also has the light rack system, so it's going to be easier to run the slide on that semi-auto, which some people have problems with. It has cocking ears on the back of the slide, a lighter recoil spring, so easy slide manipulation is a big deal. And then shooting the 380, lower recoiling. So check it out, new from Ruger, the Security 380. EOTECH has a rifle scope that's pretty amazing. It's a 5-25 power. So you think 5-25, that's big. It's the EOTECH Voodoo 5-25x50 first focal plane. But here's the thing. It's short and it's smaller. It's ideal for short platform rifles. It's only about 11 inches in length. It's one of the shortest first focal plane rifle scopes on the market. And one of the unique advantages of that short design, it gives you the ability to attach a clip-on night vision or thermal device in front of the scope. Hey, now we're ready for night hunting, hog hunting, that type of thing. So check it out from Voodoo EOTECH, the EOTECH Voodoo 5-25 FFP. Springfield Armory, one of the things Springfield Armory has been making, I guess from the beginning, are M1A rifles. M1A rifles, 308 semi-auto, kind of a classic take, bringing that M1A to a whole new level with Springfield Armory. One of the ones I like is the M1A SOCOM. This is the shorter version, handy tactical rifle, 16.25-inch barrel, but it's mated to the gas system with a proprietary muzzle brake, which will reduce felt recoil and also probably blow the paint off the ceiling if you had to shoot it indoors. This sucker, it works, but like a good one, it's loud. Comes with excess sights, tritium inserts on the front sight, giving you a lighting, a lit up front sight. So they're pretty cool, solid truck gun. Yeah, it's in 7.62 NATO, lots of power. The M1As are a little taste of history, but in a modern package from Springfield Armory. All right, so Bret, Franchi, you guys make semi-auto shotguns, over and under shotguns, rifles, and you have a wide variety. You have turkey guns, you've got, but you have sporting clays guns, and then you've got waterfowl guns. I mean, we all kind of know turkey guns. A lot of times they have sights, a lot of times they have pistol grips, but how would you describe the difference between a sporting clays gun, kind of purpose built for that, versus a field gun, a waterfowl gun?
Sure. The two most notable differences are going to be, to me, barrel length and then the choke setup, right? So on that sporting clays gun you have there, both that and the 20 gauge version of that, because we do offer 20 gauge as well. Excuse me. 20. They both come with a barrel 2-inch longer than their hunting counterparts. The difference there is in the balance of the swing. When sporting clay shooting, just traditionally, again, people like that longer barrel for the balance out front. And then, the waterfowl guns, I would argue you don't want a longer barrel just because it becomes more cumbersome trying to pull up out of a pit or out of a blind. Or I do a lot of hunting from a kayak behind my house. And so, the smaller package I can have in that instance, just the better, right? Because I have limited space. And then the choke setup is that's obviously the most important part, right? So we have an elite lineup of guns that we launched in 2019. It started with our waterfowl elites. Now, one of the big upgrades that we provided in that package was 3 extended out-of-the-box waterfowl chokes for long, close, and mid-range shooting. And we purposely curtailed those to the distances you would shoot at typically from waterfowl hunting, whether it be a close, mid, or long range, or some people would refer to, timber, pass, decoy shooting.
Sure.
And contrary to popular belief, the ballistics of a shotgun, they're not controlled by barrel length, right? The ballistics are controlled by that choke constriction. So once you get out past, 20, 22 inches on a shotgun barrel, ballistically, there's no difference. It's really just about that fit, that feel, that balance, personal preference, and then the choke does the rest. Now, from the receiver back on all of our guns, they're going to be more or less the same, right? You have the Inertia bolt that set the world on fire back in the 60s and has continued to do such ever since. You have the adjustable drop and cast with the stock there, and then you have the TSA recoil pad, which can alleviate up to 50% of felt recoil depending on the loads you're using. The fore end's going to be the same. Really, again, the biggest changes are the barrel, the choke selections, and then when you get into our higher end Affinity Elite offerings, we have proprietary forcing tone job that we do that we call precision tone patterning, that reduces felt recoil, and it also it provides for slightly more precise patterning out of the barrel for less holes in that shot out to the ideal distance.
Is that kind of like an overboring treatment you guys have?
Similar. So overboring would be the entirety of the bore throughout the barrel. This would just be in that rear section where normal forcing tones are lengthened fairly small. So this we have improved that, lengthened it out to what we feel is an ideal length to achieve the patterning results we want, with the added benefit of less felt recoil, which helps with follow-up shots.
So you're not trying to force all the shot and the wad and everything through a smaller constriction. You kind of space it out a little bit longer, so it's going to help with the recoil and maybe less shot deformation.
Yes, exactly. And you absolutely do achieve less shot deformation, which is, the primary benefit of it. Well, some people might say it's the less felt recoil, but just sort of, it's all subjective, right? But a good way to think of it is when you fire a shell, the bore of the barrel is smaller than the chamber from a diameter standpoint. And so standard forcing tones are more aggressive. And so it becomes more jarring, to literally force it down into the diameter of the bore. So by lengthening that out a precise distance, it's way less steep, it's more gradual. And so it's a less jarring impact onto the rear barrel of the gun to get it into the bore diameter that you need to. And so it makes stuff, it just works better, I suppose.
Well, it seems like even though we're talking about fractions of a second, it kind of prolongs all of that it spaces it out over a little bit longer period of time,
right,
for all that inertia to come back on the shooter.
I mean, you think about the feet per second you read off the box of any load you buy, right? There's an immense amount of force coming out behind any projectile that a firearm is going to launch, right? So it's cutting down on the way that force is then relayed back to the shooter, but also the way that it impacts the shot as it goes down the barrel.
Sure. Yeah. Brett, what are you go to consumer shows from time to time, I'm sure, and have been. What are some of the questions or comments that you get from consumers when it comes to your products and your brand?
It's a great question. I find the most common one is, hey, this is the type of shooting I do. Help me find a gun that's going to work for it. And I take it, that's easy to do on paper, right? Say, okay, you're going to do mostly waterfowl hunting. We can go look at gun ABC, right? You're going to do turkey hunting. I have, what I consider to be one of the finest turkey guns on the market. But what I always try to do the most is get people to handle different guns. Like, I'll go pull 3, 4, 5 guns down off the wall, right? Or from wherever in the booth. Because to me, and this goes back to kind of what we were talking about before, earlier on in this podcast, fit and feel and comfort for a shooter should be their foremost concern, right? You can do a lot with a gun later on from a ballistic standpoint if you really need to. What you can't do is you can't make a gun feel better for you when you're out using it. So I want people to handle the firearms. I want them to shoulder them. There's times when I'll take that stock apart and switch it around for people to see how it feels.
Wow.
Because at the end of the day, you're making a financial investment in something that is not insignificant. And it's going to have a lot of impact on your shooting experience, whether that's in a blind or walking a sporting clays course, or whatever you're doing, just leaning up against a tree in the spring, with calling in gobblers. And if you're not happy with the fit and the feel of your gun, you're probably not going to be happy doing whatever it is you're doing at that time. And so for me, would I love for everybody to buy Franchi? Absolutely. That's my job. But if the gun doesn't feel good to you, you shouldn't buy it. And I'm happy to tell people that, because it's more important for me that they enjoy the experience of the sport than it is to sell one more gun, right? Like, truly, if it doesn't feel good for a person, it's not what they should be buying. So it's very important for me to have them handle as many of the guns as possible to try them out. And maybe it's not a perfect fit for that pursuit, but if it's a perfect fit for them physically, then buy that gun. Now, I say all this, but I am fairly confident that at the end of the day, because of everything we've done on the front end of designing these guns, you know, our affinities, our momentum rifles, our instinct over-unders are going to be some of the finest feeling guns for shooters. So I have a large degree of confidence in saying, yeah, I will recommend somebody go elsewhere if I need to, but most of the time they don't.
Yeah. Well, and actually, Brett, just before this, I was taking this out of the box. We were putting it together, and I'm 5'9", 180 pounds. And then another guy in our office, he's probably, I don't know, 6'2", 220.
Sure.
And he was going, man, this gun really points well for me. He was just kind of playing with it and going, yeah, that's, I mean, obviously adjusting the gun to fit you is a big deal. There's a lot that goes into the stock design as well that makes it fairly versatile. I'll add another thing, and another reason why fit is important. More important is just hitting the target, and that's what we already talked about. But especially on like a 12 gauge shotgun, if it doesn't fit you correctly, it can get a running start at your face.
Oh yeah.
I've done that before. And then that's when you get some sort of cheek bite or nose bite, which it's somewhat unusual, but if you shoot enough shotguns and you're shooting heavy loads, you know, that can happen.
It can. And, you know, it's the difference between a mildly sore shoulder the next morning. And it's happened to me recently with a gun I won't name. My wife looked at me in the morning. She's like, what the hell happened to you? I was like, I was product testing.
Right. Well, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about. So, okay, so shotguns, and especially, I mean, I know you guys make various gauges, but if you think about kind of the standard 12 gauge shotgun, shotguns, as far as ammo goes, probably the most variety of ammo possible of anything out there. If you think about buckshot and slugs, and then heavy goose loads, and then all the way down to light loads, you know, an ounce load or whatever going, you know, 1100 or less. I mean, you guys are known for reliability. How challenging is it to make the gun run with all this different stuff?
It can be very challenging. I mean, Inertia has its limitations with light loads. And that's always been the case. And it's because of Newton's laws, right? It's a fact, a law of science. Like there are certain things it can't do because there has to be enough pressure or enough movement of that stock to make that gun work. And with light loads, it just won't. So if you took that gun, that's a 3-inch chambered gun, right? But let's assume you had a 3-inch chamber in front of you. You take a heavy turkey load. If you held the stock up to that wall behind you and fired it, it wouldn't cycle.
Really?
Right. And that's just because of the science behind the inertia. So the way the inertia system works is there has to be movement against your shoulder to get the spring. There's an incredibly heavy spring within that bolt to get that to compress, which then shoots the bolt backwards, right? And then causes it to go back enough to grab another shell and then to have the return spring pull it back forward.
So it's relying on a give from the shooter.
Right. And so if you have, and we've seen this before, you have a 6'5", 6'6" guy who's like really stoutly built, right? There's a chance that a 20 gauge is not going to work for him.
Interesting. Wow.
Because it doesn't, because he's too immobile, right? It's not gonna move him. And so like at all, his shoulder's just gonna stay flat, right? And the gun just won't cycle. And so it's and again, there's nothing you can do about that. I wish there was, but it's literally just based on the laws of science.
Maybe it's
And
just if you're a real big guy, you just need to shoot a 12 gauge. Come on.
no, there is that as well. But you said it, not me. But no, so it does get difficult at times because there are limitations to, again, that science. But the engineers at Franchi have done such a great job in designing it to work with as many loads as possible. And so it's rare that you get those types of issues. And like that gun, for instance, that you're going to use lighter loads at a sporting place range. And we sell a lot of those guns, and we don't get a lot of complaints about people having guns that don't cycle. So yeah. I'm talking about the most extreme case because most people don't know it or think about it, and I think it's fairly interesting. Like the first time I learned about it when I took this job, I was like, no way. I was like, that's actually pretty cool. Like I'd be annoyed if I was a 6'5", 300-pound dude and the gun didn't work. But like from just knowing things standpoint, like I was like, that's pretty interesting.
Well, and probably you guys advise, customers in to say, hey, you kind of have, there is a minimum load that's going to make this run.
Well, and that was, it can be a very awkward conversation. But again, I don't want somebody to come away with a negative experience or impression of the brand, right? So I was at a show with a large independent customer a few months back, and I had a gentleman, really nice guy. Him and his wife were looking at guns, and he loved this 20 gauge gun, but he was a really, really big dude. And I'm like, I got to be honest with you. I was like, I'm not telling you not to buy this. Like, because I do want you to, especially since you've obviously fallen in love with it here the last 15 minutes. I was like, but you need to be aware that you're a big guy and there are going to be some limitations here. I was like, so my recommendation would be try to go to a local range that has some of these guns available for you to shoot and like just try it out first and make sure it works for you. Because the last thing I would want is for you to come away with a poor experience and have a gun that doesn't work for you because just the way you're built naturally, right? And then all of a sudden you've got to either try to sweet talk somebody into returning the used gun, which we all know is going to be nigh on impossible, or you're going to have to go sell it for less money than what you bought it for, and you're out a couple $100, right? And that's not fair to anybody. So it's about making people aware of that as well.
Yeah.
And those conversations, yeah, I felt really badly, and it's kind of awkward.
No, Bret, what you should have said is, but we have some lovely over and under guns. You should take.
You're
a look
right.
at.
I should have. I'm going to bring you with me next time.
No, this gun that I've been telling you is so great. Never mind. Never mind. This is what you really need. You need an instinct.
Yeah, right. Which are phenomenal guns for the record. I wish you had one of the instant sporting guns there as well.
Yeah,
because it's a fantastic firearm.
So I mean, you guys are doing all kinds of cool stuff. I have to say, you probably have some of the most beautiful imagery on like your social media. So if anybody's listening to this and wants to follow Franchi, it's just every like photo you see, you're like, man, I want to be there. That looks awesome. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate to bring on some fantastic ambassadors from across the country who do really, really fine work for us. And it's a wide range of terrain, right? Like we've got people out in the prairies, the plain states. We've got people down south hunting flooded timber. We brought a young lady on a couple of years ago named Kaya Mays out in Idaho, who is just doing some really cool stuff all of the time. And it's just exquisite seeing some of the mountain scenes that are out there. It's awe-inspiring, right? Especially for somebody who grew up and has lived his entire life on the East Coast.
Right. Totally different country out there.
Yeah, but no, we've and I think that's a testament to the brand as well, right? Like we've tried to build something really positive with the Franchi brand, highlighted by just, I think, what we were talking about early on, the quality and the workmanship and the beauty of the guns that you get at a very, reasonable price. And that draws people to the brand. And, it allows us to recruit and to work with a number of very talented people out in the field. And, it makes it easier too, right?
Getting out there and being social with people. So Bret, let's see, if they want to go find out more, they can go to franchiusa.com.
Absolutely.
And this will be out, this podcast will be out this week, but probably some things coming up for you guys, because we got SHOT Show next month. So that's usually when people start bringing out new things.
It is. We have a number of new exciting things. One is a new rifle. I can't spill the beans yet, but
I'm not trying to bust
I know.
But just to tease people to tune in and see what's new from you guys coming up in a month or so.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of new information out there for everybody, launching the week of SHOT. And then after that, we'll be at Pheasant Fest. We'll be at NWTF show, or at the NWTF show in Nashville. We'll be obviously at the NRA show as well. Yeah. So there's going to be a number of places to come find us in the first few months of 2023. And, again, it goes back to the previous question. The best way to buy the best gun for yourself is to go handle as many as possible. So I always encourage people, if you have a show in your area, come out, say hi. Everybody there is happy. And we got into this job because we're passionate about it, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's happy to meet with new people and to help them find something that works for them. And plus, it's just a lot of fun walking around and looking at all sorts of new things, right?
Heck yeah. Yeah. So get out there, go see Bret, try out some guns, see what fits you. If you're a former NFL lineman, have him talk you out of buying a gun. It'll be great.
We'll stick with the 3.5 inch 12 gauge for them.
There you go. Yeah. Man, thanks for being on with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ryan.
All right, guys, that's it for us. We'll see you next time on Gun Talk Nation.